Hello everybody and welcome to our first full race review for the weekend of Donington Park, the national circuit for the 2024 British Touring Car Championship. With me is my good friend Ben. Say hello.
Hello!
And as per usual, like we always do every year, we're going to cover, just as to give you guys a brief rundown of what we do with these race reviews, we cover the 3 British Touring Car races and mention a few other bits and pieces along the way, if needs be. So, first round of the season, well, first 3 rounds of the season, the first venue of the season was at Donington Park, the national circuit. A circuit that is a lot shorter than most people think it is. The touring cars take around 80 seconds or so to get round it. And after the sessions were dry on the Friday and mainly the Saturday actually, for the practice and qualifying, the rain came down with a vengeance on the Sunday. We'll get to that in due course. First of all, though, just before we do start, I just want to quickly mention many thanks to all you guys' support that you've given us on this channel. As always, I always like to get that out there. We do have a 2024 playlist if you want to see it, or you want to catch up on any videos that you may have missed so far this year and for the rest of the year, including in-season news and stuff like that. Feel free to check out the playlist. It's in the description as always. You can also find past seasons reviews that we have done there as well. Anyway, let's get into Donington Park. So, new season, new rules, new hybrid sort of system, modifications we'll call it. There was a lot of new things coming in. We had new drivers entering, and obviously past drivers as well that also have managed to come back in, including the likes of Rob Huff. So we had some pretty good racing from the support packages this weekend. I know it's a bit of a slight tangent. The Legends Cars Championship provided many an entertaining spectacle, as did the Porsches and the Minis, as per usual. Would highly recommend giving them a watch if you haven't watched them already. But moving into qualifying, so qualifying saw its first shock with the new system, as Dan Camish and Adam Morgan were the 2 big hitters to get knocked out in the group stage. So in Group 1, they were two of many to get knocked out. Same with Group 2 as well. The new rules saw a weird shock, as Rob Huff was the first to get caught out by the rules that where he wasn't allowed to get out of the garage before his group started in qualifying, which, he asked me, it's a bit of a daft rule, but it's part of the new rule set. Basically, if between the groups going out, if you're in the second group, you need to be out of the garage and in the pits ready to go. If you're not, then unfortunately you basically can't take part. Bit of a silly rule, but it's the rules. Group 2 saw BMW come alive, along with a shot result for Daryl De Leon in the Cupra, which he put in a mighty effort, I must say. Moving on past that, though, Part 2 saw Sutton go quickest from Ingram and Turkington. However, with less than 90 seconds to go, we saw Sam Osborne go off the road, and he brought out the red flag, which obviously erases his best time in the process, for those that don't know about that rule. The session did get extended to 3 minutes, and when it was all said and done, we had both Vauxhalls plus Cook and Smiley go out alongside, obviously, Osborne. And then we had the Fast 6 shootout, the first time we're seeing it this season, and it was going to be interesting to see who would come out on top. And it was, surprise, surprise, Tom Ingram that managed to eke out Sutton only by about half a tenth, take the first pole of the season ahead of, obviously, like I said, Sutton and Turkington, who was 3 tenths back in the BMW. Now, thanks to the British weather playing its part, the first race was delayed. We saw a great start by Tom Ingram. It wasn't as good as both BMWs, as Turkington challenged him for the lead going down the hill. Sutton was in the mix as he dropped down the order, but managed to get back ahead of Turkington to retake third. Further back, we saw Sam Osborne go flying off the road to bring out the safety car once the barrier was repaired. This was very similar to a few years back, I'll say a few years, over a decade ago, when Jason Plato went flying off. I think you may remember that one, Ben. The Chevrolet...
Yes.
Was it the Chevrolet Cruze he drove? He rolled over.
Might have been the Lassetti. I forget which one, because he drove like 2 in a row and it looked very similar with the blue and white.
Might have been the Lassetti. But
yeah, it was like really close sort of to how that looked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is as well is that for those that are probably unaware, and I'm pretty sure everybody realises this, but basically, even on grass, it's just like ice. Once you're on the grass, you've basically got nowhere back, unless somehow you're able to slow the car down for whatever reason, or somehow. But it is very, very treacherous. So obviously, a lot of people were tippy-toeing in this first race. Once the racing did get back underway, we were on lap 16, which meant that, unfortunately, we basically had near enough a full race behind the safety car. In my opinion, this should have been red flagged and then restarted whilst the barriers were, repaired. We also found out as well that the one of the marshals unfortunately got injured and had to go to a hospital, but I believe it wasn't too serious. I think it was a sprain or might have been slightly broken leg, but hopefully that marshal is recovering well and wish him all the best. But when the race did get back underway, it was all to play for as Sutton attacked Hill for second place. Further back in the field, we saw Morgan go head-to-head against De Leon and Doble for ninth. In a great move, managed to get past them both in a few corners. Moffat pulled off a scary move on De Leon down the main straight, going a little bit onto the grass, which I thought was very brave. One lap later, we saw Watson and Aaron Taylor-Smith go head-to-head like they did in the previous year as teammates. This brought a few cars closer together with the likes of Camish, Doble, Morgan, Moffat, De Leon, Huff and Rowbottom all getting involved with one another. This resulted in Rob Huff getting punted off the road, and Rowbottom's bonnet came up. With 2 laps to go, De Leon took on Chilton for 12th place, with Doble waiting in the wings in case anything happened. As it so happened, it did, and he got pushed down the order to 14th place. Near the end of the race, Rowbottom's bonnet, which had previously been taped down, had come back up again, and as such, he had to pit, unfortunately retire due to it being the last lap. In the end, though, nothing stopped Ingram winning the first race of the season from Sutton and Hill, and really showing how serious he is about winning a second title. So your race 1 results are as follows. Tom Ingram is your race winner, along with the fastest lap. Ash Sutton is second, with Jake Hill in third. Turkington fourth. Ronan Pearson made a surprise appearance, finishing fifth. Josh Cook in sixth. Aaron Taylor-Smith in seventh. Adam Morgan eighth. Dan Camish in ninth. And Aidan Moffat to round out the top 10. And it was a lot more hectic in race 2. So Ben, what was race 2 like?
Yeah, race 2 was a nice dry race at this point. Like everything had been sorted with the weather and the circuit had completely dried out pretty much more or less. The grass and everything around the circuit was still extremely damp, as you'll find out later in the race. So, for the start of race 2, we had a really good start. Before the start, shall mention, Adam Morgan got demoted to 14th, I think, due to being out of grid position in race 1. So that was before the start. Ingram and Hill got a really good start. Hill managed to get the lead into turn 1, and then Turkington locked up not long later around the lap as the BMW was suffering from getting its tyres warm, and it seemed that cold tyres had just locked up. That allowed Cook to pass him really easily. On to lap 2. Hill starts gaining a nice lead. It's not a big lead because he has Ingram chasing down on him, and not far behind him was Sutton. So yeah, that was quite good. Huff starts gaining quite a few positions and getting a nice pass on Rowbottom. Lap 3. Cook starts chasing down for 3rd place. It seems like he's sort of trying to catch up to Sutton if he can. On to lap 5. Sutton and Ingram were having a nice little battle as Ronan Pearson just came straight off, went into the grass. This threw up lots of water, so this is the point when you could see that the grass and everything was just still very much damp. He managed to get her back on the track, also bringing a few bits of dirt and muck with him, and then he went straight at the end of this lap into the pit lane. On to lap 8. Rowbottom tries to overtake on the straight. He gets pushed wide at the chicane. He has nowhere to go, so he has to go through the gravel at the chicane and then back onto the start-finish straight. This allowed Rob Huff to pass him quite easily, as he didn't have to go through the gravel and just went straight around normal way. He then gets up to 12th. On lap 11, Moffat defends Morgan, and Morgan seems to be starting to get more grip from the tyres on the BMW at this point, as he's really close to Moffat. Chilton's car sadly starts letting out smoke towards the middle of the lap, and he had to pull into the pits as well. On to lap 14. Ingram gets passed by Hill. Ingram, gets past Hill at this point, and this leaves him open to Sutton, who also then passes Hill not long after, using the advantage gained by Ingram opening up the gap. Ingram then starts to gain a really good lead at this point as he used his hybrid on this lap and just used it to get past and carry on to gain a good advantage. On to lap 15. Hill gets back past Sutton at this point on the chicane, but then Sutton gets back past him again on the start-finish line because he then started using his hybrid on that lap. Lap 16, Camish is now chasing down Turkington for 5th place, and he has enough hybrid left to basically use it on every lap left of the race. Lap 16, at this point, Cook is now caught by Turkington and Camish. They all have a nice battle for 4th, with Camish trying to get past Turkington, and as such, Turkington then has to defend. Cook gains a gap between them both while them two are fighting amongst themselves. And now on to the last lap. Camish has his bonnet open. It seems that the Napa car's bonnet pins are not very good this year. He backs off at this point because he don't want the bonnet to flip in at the windscreen. This allows Turkington a nice little gap from him. And then Ingram crosses the line to win, with Sutton not far off in 2nd. So your winner is Tom Ingram. 2nd is Sutton. 3rd is Hill. 4th is Cook. 5th is Turkington. 6th is Camish. 7th is Morgan. 8th is Moffat. 9th is Huff. 10th is Rowbottom. The fastest lap this time was by Ronan Pearson, who finished in 17th. Over to you, Brad, for race 3.
Thanks, Ben. So race 3 was a case of, as it usually is every single time, it is always a case of pandemonium. Now, obviously, with the new rules and everything like that, and the hybrid system being like it is, race 3 was one hell of an action-packed show. Don't get me wrong, race 2, with how Ben's just mentioned it, there was a lot going on. Race 3 was definitely one of them races as well to keep an eye on. Mainly because of the fact that we had Rob Huff was picked for being put on pole, and the title contenders obviously started a bit further back. And straight from the off, unsurprisingly, Adam Morgan, who was back in 3rd, got a great start, and as was expected with the BMWs. He managed to bomb it off the line, get right ahead into the lead ahead of Huff and Moffat into turn 1. Turkington also tried to get past Moffat throughout the first lap. Further back, there was a lot of position swapping over, as was to be expected from the first lap tussles. Hill, Ingram and Sutton were all in the thick of it On to lap 2, and Huff was all over Morgan for the lead of the race, but there was drama further back, as a coming together between Watson and Rowbottom saw the bottom end of the field swapping places very, very quickly. I would cover it here, but there was too many, and I would highly recommend watching it. But there was a lot of, trying to cover positions, swapping. It was great to watch, don't get me wrong. Sutton and Ingram managed to get past Cook, which moved them up into 6th and 7th place, respectively. However, coming to turn 1 on the following lap, Sutton tried his luck against Hill, and with a very ballsy pass, if I may say that, he managed to get past Hill, and he did have a bit of contact that loosened a rear panel on Sutton's car, but he did manage to make the move stick, and he moved up into 5th place. Darrell De Leon then went off the road on lap 3, which brought out the safety car. During this period, we saw Pearson pit and retire the car, which brought his bad weekend to a close. On the restart, we saw Morgan lock his brakes a few corners round, and unfortunately dropped him down to 3rd, which allowed Huff and Moffat to get ahead of him. And obviously, this was the first time Huff's led a race in quite a few years, but it was great to see him at the front. So obviously, Morgan dropped down to 3rd. Turkington and Sutton were right behind him on his heels. Further back, there was a 3-way scrap for 8th with Cook, Camish and Aaron Taylor-Smith all fighting for position. But then it became a 4-way scrap with different cars involved as Mikey Doble and Tom Chilton joined the fray, as well as Watson getting involved. And it basically had cars swapping places wherever you look, so it was really great racing. Lap 10 saw Ingram and Sutton take on Turkington and Hill respectively. However, up at the front, it was Moffat who put a cracking move on Huff to take the lead, but the action didn't stop there, as both Toyotas took each other on in a sensational scrap for the lead as they swapped places multiple times over the course of 2 laps. All this did though was allow the BMWs to move in, and before long it went from a 2-horse race with both Toyotas to what looked like a 4 and even 5-way scrap for first place. Lap 12 was pure chaos for positions as Sutton, Turkington, Huff, Morgan, Ingram and Hill were all swapping places, and it was honestly great to watch. The following lap, on lap 13, we saw Hill and Ingram take Rob Huff for position, with both of them going wide at the final chicane as 3 into 1 wouldn't go. Jake tried to get a move on Ingram, unfortunately forced Ingram off the road. Huff couldn't make the corner and as a result straight line the corner, and obviously Hill managed to keep ahead of him because of the fact of with what happened. On the following lap, it was Napa versus Napa, with Cook being involved as well. So this was Osborne versus Camish versus Rowbottom, I believe, with Cook being involved there as well. But given how close everyone was, you couldn't guess who was going to finish where at the end of this race. Turkington and Sutton, meanwhile, were at the front trying to find a way past Moffat, but despite their best efforts, they couldn't find a way past the Toyota, despite how close Turkington got at several points during this race. The last lap saw a fantastic race where Moffat had to defend for his life like it was the end of the championship against some of the best drivers on the grid, with Turkington, Sutton, Ingram and Hill all ready to pounce if any of them made a mistake. After what probably felt like a lifetime, it was Aidan Moffat who held on to win from Turkington and Sutton, who rounded out the podium. So your race 3 results are as follows. Your winner was Aidan Moffat, his first in I believe 3 or 4 years, with Colin Turkington rounding out in second, his highest finish of the day, and Ash Sutton taking another podium, 3 from 3 in third. Tom Ingram finished fourth with the fastest lap to his name, with Jake Gill in fifth, Rob Huff in sixth, probably looking at what could have been. Adam Morgan finished in seventh ahead of Dan Rowbottom, Josh Cook and Dan Camish to round out the top 10. So your first set of driver standings after the first 3 races looks like this. Tom Ingram takes the lead with a 9-point advantage ahead of Ash Sutton in second. Then we have Jake Hill a few points behind him, with Turkington only a point separating him from Hill. Then we've got Aidan Moffat in a surprise jump in 5th place on 36 points, ahead of his teammate Josh Cook by only 6 points. Then we have Dan Camish, Adam Morgan, Rob Huff and Aaron Taylor-Smith rounding out the top 10. So Ben, overall, first weekend of touring cars, what did we make of it? Good or bad?
It was quite a good weekend. Like, the weather obviously made it a bit difficult for Sunday because they had to try and fit as much in of all the support package things and everything, and sort out everything, which good on them for everybody who managed to sort that all out, everybody involved. It was really well done, from what they could gain out of it. From my perspective, I'd say the Toyotas are interesting to look at what their package is doing this year. It seems that they've got the right guys in it as far as I can see, and hopefully something interesting might come of that. It could be quite interesting, what any of the 4 of them could do, to be fair, because they all seem like they could do something with the car. So that for me was a big thing. The hybrid seems that what's going on with this year, hopefully, that should be quite interesting, because it seems like when you've got the hybrid on that lap, you have got the hybrid on that lap. It's giving you an actual boost this year. So hopefully that'll play more this year. And the Napa bonnets, it'd be interesting to see if anything comes up for the rest of the year, or if that was just a Donington problem.
Yeah, it looks
so
very much
that was
like
my
that.
big takes of the day.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you about the Napa thing, because it was 2 cars, 2 different, one in each race in the first 2 races. Supposedly they were both due to contact, which I suppose is fair.
Yeah, but the contact on Camish wasn't a big contact, and it still went up.
Yeah, the main one for me was the fact that they did try and stick Rowbottom's bonnet down, and it still came back up.
Yeah, exactly. Either they've done something with the aero on the bonnet and it's not quite right. Because I did notice whenever you had the camera looking back at Sutton's, his bonnet, the middle of it was flexing like mad.
New aerodynamics by Napa.
Yeah, exactly. It was constantly going up and down, as he was behind other cars. And then when he'd obviously get on alongside them, or have no one in front of him, it'll be fine again. So there's something going on this year, possibly. Could be interesting to watch for the rest of the season, definitely.
For me, I wouldn't say there was many. I mean, in terms of like winners from the weekend, I'd say that the hybrid system won overall.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
wouldn't
big
really give it
takeaway
to
from it.
drives as such. Maybe Moffat, he did really well with that battle on race 3.
Yeah, I think all the cars have looked very evenly matched, and we've actually got, from what it looks like, new cars potentially reaching the front now, which is always good to
that's
see.
what I thought as well.
And despite a shorter grid, I would actually say that the racing feels closer. And you do have people at the back, like you still got, Nick Alstead and De Leon, and now you've got Sumpton and Smiley on the grid. The Cooper not being the quickest car in the world, but I think there's racing up and down the grid, whereas normally we've been used to like 2 or 3 guys on their own at the back, miles behind, and then everybody else buggers off in front. So it seems like, even though there is still that gap between the front and the back, there is racing going on up and down, which I think is the main thing that touring cars needs this year. We said at the preview that it needs to get better this year, because if it doesn't, the hybrid system is going to be a laughing stock. It was after last year, I think. So
yeah, it was. It was very lackluster last year. Like, we didn't want to ever admit it in the actual race reviews, but we struggled to get through some of them reviews.
Yeah, and I think this one was a bit easier. I do think with race one,
I had no problem.
100%, race 1 should have been red flagged if the damage was that bad and everything. Because I understand,
especially with how short touring car races are, being like sprints. They just lost so much. Like, it just wasn't worth leaving them out for that. I don't get what they did. The only thing I can see from it is, because of the time of how they had to fit everything in for the rest of the day, they probably thought we're just going to have to just leave it running and just deal with it. Because it seemed like the rest of the day sort of was that going forward. Was like, the race either carries on, or if it gets red flagged, that race is just done.
Yeah, exactly. Not the greatest thing in the world, but like I said, I think overall touring cars did try the best. It's just a case of maybe look into how they run a race a bit more. But anyway, on that note, I think we'll wrap this one up here. But like I said, first race weekend was a success. The hybrid system definitely was an improvement and did its job. Racing-wise, it seems like the field looks to be closer. And who knows, Ingram might have a 9-point advantage now, but who will lead Brands Hatch on top? We will find out in a few weeks' time. But anyway, on that note, let us know what your thoughts were on this weekend. Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? As always, let us know down in the comments section. What did you think? Anything could have been done different regarding, some of the rules that you've seen on display, or do you think there was anything that we may have missed? Let us know in the comments. On that note, we'll see you guys in a few weeks' time when we come back, which will be at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, which will be sure to provide some surprises, I'm sure, especially given the fact that we've got the hard and the soft tyre coming to that one, or the prime and the option tyre. So plenty to play for, especially with the championship stakes being as early as they are. But on that note, thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have a great day wherever you are in the world. And as always, we'll see you guys for the Brands Hatch race reviews. Until then, ta-ra.
Bye.